Knowing this near universal pattern helps to assess new brands and existing ones.
What don't marketers know?
Quite a lot. Marketers,
As we live in an anything-goes world where the latest fashion or fad drives an awful lot of practice.
Segmentation is the recognition you can't serve everyone with equal satisfaction.
This is the Zac Anesbury Show.
Welcome! On today's podcast, we have Associate Professor Renaud Lunardo. Now, I first met Renaud and his lovely wife Camille and his two children, now that I think about it, earlier this year when he visited the Ehrenberg Bass Institute. Now, Renaud gives us all sorts of tips about which marketing conferences we should attend, regardless of whether we're in industry or whether we're an academic. And he gives us some of the ins and outs of what it's like working for a French university, and in particular, their business schools. Now, you're going to learn a lot about Renaud and how he got into the position that he is today, and ultimately how he was shaped through his life by the influence of his father, something I could very much relate to. But if you want to find out more, well, you would just have to listen. So without further ado, Associate Professor Renaud Lunardo. All right, so I think we're live. So welcome to the podcast. So you've been in Adelaide now for roughly 10 weeks. How are you enjoying your trip so far?
Oh, so far, so good. So actually, it's going to be 3 months and a half. We had a good time at the Institute, made a lot of research, submitted a lot of papers. Hopefully they will be accepted. So far so good. And the city is great. So it's a very nice experience.
And I'm sure as everyone's picked up from your accent, you're obviously French.
French, yeah.
So you were born in France, right?
Yeah, I was born in France, in a small city in the north of France, in Troyes. And then I moved to Reims in the Champagne region. And now I live in Bordeaux in the wine region. So very much focused on alcoholic beverages.
There'd be many people here who'd be very jealous of that, that's for sure.
Maybe so.
Me being one of them. I mean, I'm hoping to visit next year and spend a bit of time there with the conference and all of the wine researchers and everything like that. Really, really excited. So just thinking back to your early childhood, was there anything that sort of indicated to you that this would be the career path you would take? Did you see yourself in academia, or did you see yourself anything related to marketing?
No, I always wanted to become a fighter pilot.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, my dad is a doctor. Yeah, he works in a private clinic.
An actual doctor or a medical doctor?
Medical.
Yeah.
So not the PhD in marketing. A real one.
That's what people keep telling me.
Yeah.
My dad keeps telling people it's like, no, it's not Zac, it's Dr. Zac.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, okay, make sure you tell him it's from a PhD.
Yeah. No, I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and so my dad is a medical doctor, but his main hobby is obviously flying. Okay. So he rents. So he doesn't have a plane, but a plane. But he rents a plane maybe, I would say 3 times a month or something like this. So in my childhood, everything was mainly oriented toward being a fighter pilot. But when I turned to be a teenager, I was much more focused on girls and my scooter and that kind of things. And so I was not able, I didn't have the mass level required to become a fighter pilot. And so that actually my dad was pissed off with that.
So you've flown planes before, though?
Sorry?
Have you flown a plane before?
You mean with my dad and... Yeah. So obviously a lot of times I flew with my dad, even, flew myself, even though I'm not allowed to. But still, I know, for instance, how to take off, to land, to fly. So,
wow.
And actually I wanted to learn now that I have the money to not to buy a flight, but to a plane, but to get the degree. But I actually have no time as an academic, even though some people would say that, oh, you don't have a lot of teaching to do, and what you do in terms of research could be done so quickly. But no, obviously I don't have time, especially with the kids. So, but this is definitely something I would like to do soon. So to get back to the question, in my childhood, no, everything was oriented toward being fighter pilot. The thing is, because my parents are divorced, and
Same.
yeah, and my mom was a teacher at the elementary school. Okay. Yeah.
So that's the lower level? So that primary school?
Basically for children who are between, I would say, 6 and 10. Yeah. And so they were divorced. So my mom was not an academic, but still she worked in a school. My father was a medical doctor. And because he had a very, very tough childhood without a father, for instance, and his mother was from Italy, couldn't read a book in French, couldn't speak French hardly, and so he always taught me that there is nothing more important than knowledge and culture, and he would always say yes if I ask for a book, but if I ask for something else, he has to think about it before telling yes. So no, everything was, so it was not always about being disciplined and that kind of things, but obviously it was being knowledgeable and being educated was something very important, which means, and I have to tell that I have also a sister who is a doctor in pharmacy, so it's not like a medical doctor, and so she set an example of, so this is the minimum threshold you have to achieve if you want to be, as cool as me, or, as educated as me, or whatever. So, no, it was not, I was not predestinated, to do that. Yeah.
I've sort of have a similar background to you in that sense. So, yeah, my parents are not together as well, and were divorced when I was about 7.
Exactly.
And it was, and similar to you, that it was really my father who really pushed me to get an education, because he also didn't have a father growing up. It's quite strange how similar this is. Yeah. And he always thought to himself that education was the key for his children to better their lives.
Exactly.
And so as a result, I did my bachelor's degree. Yeah. Then he encouraged me to do my honors. Yeah. Then I did my master's. Yeah. And then I got my PhD. Yeah. And now he just loves telling people all about it.
Yeah. Actually, when I got my, what we call in French, the baccalaureate, which is the degree you get in the high school to enter the university, right? Yeah. So when I got it, I asked my father what he thought I should do in terms of studies, and basically there was no room for studies lower than the graduated degree. You know what I mean? So it was a master or a PhD or nothing at all. So basically, there was a lot of pressure because I couldn't, for instance, so we have that kind of very short degree, a 2-year degree. This is something that my friends could consider because actually they wanted to do that kind of very short program to have a professional life quite soon. And this is really something I was not allowed to consider.
Okay, so that's like the equivalent of what would be a bachelor's degree in Australia?
Yeah, not even a bachelor degree, because the bachelor degree lasts at least 3 years, I guess. Yeah, so it's even shorter than that. But in France, it's quite famous. A lot of my friends actually did that, because at the end, you can, for instance, have a position in a bank or in a retail store or whatever, but for my father, it was absolutely not.
That wasn't a high enough level.
No. Obviously not.
So that must have mean you did some sort of business degree at that point? Was it related around business, management, marketing?
Honestly, I didn't know at that time. So when I got my high school degree, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And obviously, for instance, in France, we don't have sufficient information regarding what the jobs could be, what kind of job you can have at the end of the day. So I didn't have a clue of what I could do in terms of a career. Yeah. So I know that I didn't have the sufficient knowledge in chemistry or biology to become a doctor, but I know that I really liked figures and playing with figures. Okay. So mathematics. The thing is, I didn't have the sufficient knowledge to get in the University of Mathematics or that kind of thing. So with my father, we decided that economics could be cool. So I went to the University of Economics in Reims. And that was disappointing in many ways because I thought it was more about management, but it was really on economics. And so, the micro and macroeconomics and all the authors from Adam Smith and Keynes and so on. So it was interesting, but I didn't see the point of learning that and how to use it in the real life.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, it could be interesting. And I was and it was not the right time to do it because at 19 or 20 or 21, there are so many other things in life that are much more interesting that when you have the choice between studying and doing some other stuff, you do the other stuff. So yeah. So I was not, really motivated. And then I learned about some degree in my university that was more about management. And so I decided to apply, which I did. I was motivated, but not so much because as a piece of evidence, the day I had the interview for the degree to be accepted or not. So you have that kind of interviews that last for 30 minutes and you have to show that you are really motivated and your profile fits with the degree and that kind of things. I forgot about the interview. And so 30 minutes before the interview, a friend of mine showed up at my house and just asked me, "You're not at your interview?" And I was like, holy shit.
Oh no.
And so he drove me to the university to have my interview, and I was not even wearing a suit or whatever. My jeans with holes, my blue hair at that time.
Blue hair?
Yeah.
Oh, I have to find that photo somewhere.
And so, And so I went to the interview. I felt it was okay. I received a letter saying that I was ranked 6th for the program. So I was like, yes, so good. But actually it was 6 on the waiting list.
Just a slight difference there.
Yeah.
So,
but at the end of the day, at the end of the day, I finally was allowed to enter the program. Yeah. And it was a 2-year program after my 2 years degree in the university. So it was from year number 3 to year number 4. Yeah. So I was ranked 6th on the waiting list, but at the end of the program, I was ranked number 1. So really much more motivated over time because of some personal experience. But yes, at the end, I was ranked the best. Yeah.
Perfect.
With, I don't know how you call that, honorable mention. So it's that kind of recognition.
Yeah, like a commendation. So basically commendation is an acknowledgement from someone high up within the organization that says this person is top.
Yeah, exactly. So I was ranked number 1 with, I guess my average grade at the end of the program was 14 point something out of 20, which was okay because obviously the other were ranked worse than me.
Yeah.
And so I decided to apply to another program, which was some kind of program to enter the PhD next, but you have to follow that 1 year program before. Yeah.
Oh, there's like a pre-PhD program.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't exist.
So I
here.
did that.
Yeah.
But there was no such program in management, but I wanted to stay in my hometown. So I decided to enter the PhD program about economics again. So the first day was just piece of shit. I was like, oh, back to what I don't like.
Yeah.
But still, I graduated first again.
Wow.
Yes, with 16.20 out of 20. So that was super good. Leaving all the economists behind me, I was so proud of that because they were so egoistic.
Yeah, and actually wanted to do it as well.
Yeah.
Whereas you were kind of doing it as a means to an end.
Yeah, and actually, what I did in 1 year, they did in 2, and
Wow.
even some of those left. So, and I got a scholarship for my PhD, and I was very proud of that because I got a scholarship for 3 years to get my PhD.
So they had sort of recognized because you had been top of your class and then top of your class again. So they kind of had people who were scouting for the
So if
top students.
the one who graduates,
they approached you.
Yeah. The one who graduates the best at the pre-PhD program received an offer for scholarship.
Wow.
And so at that time, I still didn't know whether or not I wanted to be a PhD, to do the PhD and to become an academic. And I had no clear view on what is the job you can get after that. So I decided to apply for an MBA because the MBA is much more recognized than the PhD.
Especially in industry.
Yeah. So I applied for the MBA.
How old were you at this point?
23 maybe.
23. It's still quite young to make such a big decision. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I applied. I've been offered the opportunity to follow the MBA. And so I had, the decision to make between being paid for 3 years to get a PhD without any clear view on what is the job you get after that. And I didn't want to work at the university because the public university in France is just, how to say that? They don't pay much. Okay? But very, very low. So like 2,000 euros per month, which is absolutely nothing.
No, not much at all.
Yeah.
It's probably about half of what academics are getting paid in Australia.
I guess. And so I was like, okay, I'm being paid right now for 3 years, but then what to do? And I paid a very huge amount of money to do an MBA. But then I can have, some kind of exciting job in the industry. And then I had a talk with my father. And my father told me, it's up to you, but I wouldn't like working for a company, switching from an airport to another, selling socks, for instance. So it was pretty clear to me what was, his opinion regarding the choice between the two.
Yeah, it's funny how much of an influence our parents tend to have on our lives and our big life decisions as well. Yeah. I'm assuming your father has big sort of guidance for you for other aspects of your life as well?
He's not someone who is very talkative, right? But when he says something, it has even much more value.
Yeah, true.
And he knows what words to use. So the example of selling socks and switching from an airport to another was very clear to me. So I decided to follow the PhD program, especially in terms of quality of life, for instance. So not switching from an airport to another. Even though I like traveling, but still. So I did the PhD, and 3 years after my, the beginning of the program, I know that it was definitely something that I liked, and the decision was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no regret.
So you're talking about the flexibility of the job in terms of academia.
Yeah.
I know how I feel about that, and it's such an important thing to me. I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword in some way. Like academia, there's no clock on the side of the wall. You don't have to get there at 9 o'clock, put in your 4-digit number, and it says, Zac Anesbury's here, and then I don't have to clock out at 5.
Yeah.
I can come and go as I want.
Yeah.
But that also has which is a huge benefit, but it also has the downside of my work follows me everywhere. So you can get up and start working.
Exactly.
And you can work all the way till you finish at night.
Yeah.
And also, even if you're not actually working, so I'm not writing, I'm not teaching, you're always thinking about it.
Exactly. You're right.
So it is a double-edged sword in that sense. But the physical location is also great as well. So you get to move. I mean, for example, you are spending 3.5 months in Australia.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. And honestly, this is when I knew that I didn't become a fighter pilot. I knew that was one of the goals to me in life was to have very rich experiences, and I wanted to travel a lot. Yeah. And actually, this is what I did. And so when I was in my first year of PhD, I had at my university, we received someone from Rutgers University in the US, from New Jersey. So she gave a presentation of her work in management. I was in marketing, so there was not so much fit. But at the end of the presentation, and I still don't know why, I got to her and I asked whether or not I could visit her for 3 months, and she said yes, and that was a game-changing thing because at the end of my first year of PhD, from April to June, I went to Rutgers University in New Jersey, even though some people told me that it would be useless because you are in your first year of PhD. So, and I was like, why do they think it would be useless? Because even though it could be more useful in the second or third year of PhD because you can run some experiments in the US with some co-authors and so on, still it's super strong experience, super cool. So, and actually it was great because I spent 3 months reading in the library of the university, which was just great, having the periodicals, the journals, having the journal that you could just, take on the shelf, reading the papers. And so I spent 3 months reading. And at the end of my first year of PhD, my theoretical model was on my laptop, which is honestly something that is not so common. And so my supervisor just at the end of this year, when I get back to France, told me that it's just perfect. Your theoretical model is there. It's just a question now of how to test it. But obviously the conclusion for my first year was good job. So when I applied for a job position after my PhD, this line in my vitae that I was able to spend some time outside of France with, French people don't do that so often. They stick in France. And so obviously it was something that was valuable also, and so I don't regret. And this is what I wanted to say, that you talked about how much autonomy we have in terms of time, but also in terms of space. And this is definitely something that is of high value with this job, because obviously it's not for the money, even though sometimes you can receive some money, but still, I guess my friend, for instance, I have a really good friend who was a master from the ESSEC, which is a really good school in France. Okay, so he has a very good position. He earns more money than me, but I see his life, I see mine. I wouldn't change for anything. So because I have so much autonomy, and so it's a trade-off, because it's a trade-off between money and autonomy. And honestly, I wouldn't give back my autonomy for more money. So
100% agree with you. The autonomy is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And the ability to, you can work with anyone anywhere around the entire world.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a unique situation to
I
have.
guess. Yeah.
And so I was told this. So I was similar to you. As I was moving between a master's to a PhD, I was talking to our then dean of academic research.
Yeah.
And she'd told me that if your goal is to be, a rich, wealthy man, don't do a PhD.
Exactly.
You actually have to have a passion for, the creation and dissemination of knowledge. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
If you want to make money, go into industry and climb the ladder there.
Yeah.
But similar to you, I'd prefer to be, while we have, heads of school or heads of departments and all of that, and we have things that we have to achieve, the ability to set our own schedules and is just something I would never, ever forfeit ever again. That's for sure. So moving from your PhD, so you completed your PhD.
Yeah.
I'm assuming because you got, first of your class, you did quite well for your PhD as well, glowing reviews.
I received an award.
I'm not surprised. So
you could be, because honestly, the PhD is not a flat line.
No.
So it's really, really something that can be stressful and can. I know some people who, and actually, I guess that in France more than I'm not sure, but I would say 30 to 40% of the people engaged in a PhD don't see the end of it.
In France, almost half.
Yeah, they sign out.
So I'm not quite sure what the rates are for Uni SA, but we have a very good recruitment for the School of Marketing, and I can't remember anyone not completing their PhD here while I've been here anyway. I think the last 5 years or 6 years, the latest table I saw was, it might have been for the business school, above 90%.
Yeah, okay.
So that's very different.
Yeah.
But it might be different for other disciplines.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. But for instance,
50% seems
my
quite high.
personal experience was that my first year was great. So moving to the US for 3 months, and my second year was just awful.
Really?
Yeah. I took some weight. Yeah, I gained some weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Close to be what we call a fat guy. I broke up with my. I broke up in my third year of PhD. I broke up with my girlfriend. We were together for a very long time, 7 years.
Wow, that's quite long, yeah.
Yeah, and so it was not a flat line. And so I decided at this really right time, that I had to change my way of doing my PhD, because obviously there was something wrong in terms of my health and my personal life. And so, and this is something that is in my mind forever. This particular date, I decided to change everything from my eating habits to my sport habits. And so I decided to run.
Okay.
Yeah. And 3 weeks after my first running, I started to see some changes in my body. Yeah. And in my mind. And I had the feeling that I was much more able to think clearly than before.
Yeah.
Honestly. And I never stopped running from that time.
Oh, it's funny.
And if you see, have you seen the movie The Imitation Game?
No.
No, about Alan Turing? No? Alan Turing, so it's the guy who created the machine to break the Enigma code from, during the Second World War.
Oh,
World War II.
saw the trailer for it, but I haven't seen the movie.
So some people say he's the founder of the IA, artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And this guy was so clever, and his hobby was running. And a lot of people say that, yes, running, but any other sport is absolutely necessary, for your mind to be effective, let's say. Yeah. So, no, my PhD was not a flat line. I got an award, but I can tell you that it was absolutely not something expected, because at the end of my second year, I was about to quit. Yeah. And even my supervisor told me that. I remember going to his office and him saying, you make me think of one of my former PhD students who took 8 years to complete the program.
Wow. That's a long time.
I left the room and I was like, so much things to change and, to achieve. So, yeah, so it was not a flat line.
Oh, okay. I 100% agree with you. And I think you speak to other people who are high-performing individuals, especially when, their job is not necessarily a physical one. You still need to be in some sort of regular exercise or activity because there must be some sort of link there that I've yet to explore fully about physical activity and increase like cognitive performance. Because I notice a big difference if I go to the gym and, I'm lifting weights or I'm running on the treadmill or I do a class or something. The ability for me to write and to analyze data the next day is so much higher than if I didn't.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And then also you look better, so you feel better.
Exactly.
I could
much more self-confidence. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so now I have my own home, my house, and my basement is basically the place where I exercise.
Okay. Yeah. You have a gym and weights and
And so regarding going back to autonomy, I have this autonomy at my school to position my teaching where I want in my schedule, right? So if I want to teach on the afternoons, I can do that instead of them. So what I did last year, and I expect I can do the same this year, I decided to teach only in the afternoons. And so every morning from 11 a.m. to noon, I go to my basement, I exercise, and I can tell you that when I am in the classroom or in my office to do some research, I am much more joyful, enthusiastic, dynamic, and so on. And it's better for me, but it's also better for the others because the interaction, I guess, with me are nicer than if I was like depressed and without any joy in my mind.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point because say for example, you're giving a 2-hour lecture. Even if you're watching a very good movie that's had a lot of production, a lot of money put into it, produced in, say, Hollywood, to have that attention span for 2 hours is quite hard. Let alone trying to educate the audience at the same time. So I very much feel that when you give a lecture, it's kind of this blur between education and entertainment.
Exactly.
And you can't deliver that entertainment part of things if you're mopey, if you're depressed, if your tone of voice is very flat today, class. You have to be...
And, and this is also something that for instance, I do have some colleagues who complain about that because they believe that what the students rate, because we are rated as teachers, right?
Yeah.
What they rate is not how much knowledge they have been provided with, but how entertaining was the sessions. And some of my colleagues are not really, that kind of guys.
They don't have that personality.
Yeah. So it's really difficult. And I do have some friends, for instance, who do not understand that my teaching load can be, for instance, 120 hours of teaching per year. They believe that it's not enough. But I tell them, okay, but it's not like being in front of a computer for 120 hours. It's being in front of an audience who has some expectations, and you have to achieve some kind of performance. You cannot just go there, talk, and leave the room. It's not the way it is.
I mean, I get where you're coming from. Like, there's a lot of preparation that goes into a 2-hour lecture. You don't just show up.
Yeah, a 2-hour lecture requires like 10 hours of preparation.
Of preparation. Yeah. I mean, that's like saying Usain Bolt just shows up and runs for 9.5 seconds and wins a gold medal at the Olympics.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. Look at all the hours of preparation. And he's only able to win and to dominate the sport for 12 years because of all of the preparation.
Exactly.
And that's what happens if you go and you deliver a very good seminar or a very good lecture. It's because of the hours and hours of preparation.
And even after there is some work. Because if you ask some people to work on a case study, for instance, you have to check the case studies. Exactly. And you have to grade them. Yeah. So, it's a very specific job in terms of, on many aspects, from autonomy to preparation to physical presence, for instance. But still, it's very interesting.
So 120 hours must mean that you're very research heavy.
Yeah, I do have less than 120.
and I think that's something that people who don't operate in academia don't understand. And I've just started to explain this to my dad, which is he thinks that my job is to stand in front of an audience all day, every day and talk about marketing, whereas that's
my family.
It's about 10%
friends.
of my job.
Yeah, exactly.
And our real job is to create new knowledge to teach, other masters and PhD students, and that's ultimately what we created to do, is to create new knowledge. Is that? Have you always been in that position, or did you start off with a more teaching heavy load?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I work in Bordeaux at Cage, but before that, I was at the School of Business in Troyes. Okay, so my very first position, and so I guess I had something like 180 hours of teaching. So less time for research, more time, in the classroom.
Just to give everyone, I suppose, a bit of context, 180 hours. So if you had a semester, is that 1 or 2 classes or 3 or?
I couldn't.
Can't remember.
I know that. So usually we teach 30 hours per discipline, let's say. So I have, for instance, so that would be 6 different courses
throughout the year.
Yeah.
So that's reasonably high. I think.
But I do have some colleagues who teach like 250.
But they must be only teaching.
Yeah. But they try to do some research to diminish the teaching load.
It's very difficult once you're, from what I've noticed by looking around, once your teaching load increases, it's very difficult to go back to research.
Exactly. So what I did is, then I decided to move to another school, better ranking and also in Bordeaux. So, and so at that time, my teaching load was 140. Yeah. And then we merged with another business school. And so we added some kind of new rules, explaining how the teaching load can change with your research achievements. And so I had the opportunity so if I did a lot of research, and if my research was published over 3 years in good journals, and so I had the opportunity to reduce my teaching load from 140 to 120 or even 90. Yeah. And so I did my best. And so it's not exactly the same as in Australia, but I needed 5 CNRS stars, which means about 5 JBR. Okay. Over 3 years.
So in Australia, that's 5 A ranking journals.
Okay.
We're currently going through a process of reevaluating all of those.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that the journals that I have Bs in get moved to A's.
Yeah.
Promotion.
Yeah, exactly. I did manage to.
So you needed 5 of those papers, which is quite a significant amount of publications for a year.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No,
not for a year, for 3 years.
For 3 years, so 5 over 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so on average,
it could be, for instance, it's not linear. Okay.
Yeah.
So it could be 15 very bad journals. Okay. Or it could be 1 JM and 1. Let's say Journal of Retailing and Consumer Services.
Yeah.
Okay.
So JM being Journal of Marketing.
Yeah. Sorry. So I did that, and my teaching load was 90 per year.
That's a good reduction. So that's about 2 classes.
Yeah. And so from that time, I do my best to keep this teaching load. And this is likely to change next year because of the research dean proposition. I have been received this proposition of being the research dean. Oh, you didn't know?
No, I did not. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
I'm assuming that's a position you wanted.
Absolutely not.
You didn't want it?
Oh, no.
Or my commiserations then.
No. I didn't want it because I have 2 kids and I really wanted to spend some time with my kids. This is something I value the most. And I really have this feeling that I had found the nice balance between my professional life and my personal life. And this is about to change. And so I really have to find a way to have my position as a research dean not to affect my personal life and to still keep me able to publish.
Actually,
so it's gonna be, I guess it's gonna be a lot of work, and maybe it's gonna take some time to find my routine to achieve my goal of, finding a balance between professional and personal life.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, family is everything.
Exactly.
And it's the reason that we all work so hard.
Yeah, and I still want to be able to go to my basement every morning, and I think that is going to change also.
I've been to sort of induction type seminars provided by the university, and they always talk about work-life balance and in particular families, but the focus they always have is how do families affect women? And being a female academic, and how does that influence you? And they often don't think about how that affects men, because we're expected to travel quite a bit.
Yeah, but still, I agree, because as you know, my wife is an academic, and I can tell you that she is way more affected by having some children. So, I mean, academic life, okay? She has way less time than I do have, because she does much more than I do for the family.
Yeah.
So,
and she would have had to take, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, she would have had to take like maternity leave and.
So she had one. She had 2 actually, and during that time she didn't do any research. So this time is obviously something that has some consequences, because if you don't do some research during that time, you have no publication 2 years or 3 years after, because the process usually takes 2 to 3 years. And so, so we decided to work together to avoid having her, being so impacted by the 2 kids.
Yeah. And
so this is our way to cope with that. But I agree with you that women are obviously their work-life balance is obviously, I guess, much more affected than for men.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So you were talking about moving towards that role of, is it Dean of Academic Research? And so does that mean that you're stepping outside of your school, or you're still within your school?
Oh, no, I'm still within my school, Same office, same school, same colleagues.
Yeah.
The only thing that changes is that I would have much more work and way less time for what I value.
Which is the family and research.
Yeah. But I will do my best to find my routine, as I said. Yeah. And I was very, very clear with my dean when he proposed, because I was very clear that I was okay with the idea of being the research dean as of September. Yeah. But I wanted some guarantees regarding my teaching load, my work-life balance, that kind of things. Yeah.
Sounds good. So you've published quite extensively then, in terms of you needed those 5 publications within a 3-year period of time.
Yeah.
I know you've published with Camille, your wife, before.
Yeah.
Besides her, because she's a given, who would your favorite collaborator be? Who's the favorite person that you've had to work with? And I suppose why? Were they very good writers? Did you learn more from them? Did they introduce you to a new method? Is there something that about that project, that specific research that you're like, I'm absolutely...
Yeah, I've worked with many different persons. I definitely know who is the person that I wouldn't like to work with again. Because when you do the word count on your papers and you see that, he wrote 2.5% of the paper when I wrote 97.5. So obviously, this is not something that I like to do again. What I agree with is the notion that now I decide what research I want to do based not on the topic, but based on the people.
Okay.
Yeah. So imagine that, for instance, I published on the use of humor in B2B relationships. Mm-hmm. I didn't know anything about humor. I didn't know anything about B2B, but I decided to do that because of the people I worked with on that project. I also published in JBR a paper in human resource management. I don't know anything about it, but still, it was because of the people on the project. But to get back to your question, my favorite... I have a good colleague, Jonas Almquist from Anken, but he's at Cage. I like to work with him because he's very rigorous and he speaks English so well that when I send the draft and the draft gets back to me, I see all the differences and I learn a lot from that, obviously. And the good thing is super good in terms of theories and conceptualization. I'm better in methods and analysis, and so we are very complementary. Yeah. And we have the same mindset, and we target the same journals. So that is a really, really good co-author. So we had 2 good papers together, and I hope we will have some others. And also, 7 years ago, 7 years ago, I went to Duke University to work with Gavin Fitzsimons. It was only for 1 month, but I can tell you that this 1 month only was changed everything in my way of doing research. Because I remember him telling me, I don't run experiments, but I know how to tell the story. And from that day, I know that the most important aspect in a paper is not the data, it's not the theory, it's how you frame the paper. What is the story that you tell and how you tell it? And I can tell you that it changes everything. And I learned how to write from that time. And now that when I present some papers at my school, the economists who come attend the seminar, I remember someone saying, wow, the paper is so clear, so neat, and this is something that I learned from that. And so today is the day when we submit a paper with Gavin to GACR, Journal of the Association of Consumer Research. So not ranked yet, but I guess it will be in the future. And this paper has been in the process of writing for 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah. 6 years. Rejected from JCR. Yeah, obviously.
As most are.
Sorry?
As most of them are. I think their acceptance rate is like 5% or something. I guess. So one in 20 papers.
Yeah. So we're trying again, and he's one of my favorite co-authors because he's so sharp, right? So he's so precise, but he's so fun as well. And he's the best in terms of methods. Honestly, he's the best. So many papers on methodological aspects that when we write a paper, I know that he's gonna pay much attention on every single coefficient, the design as well, and the guy is just cool. So, he is one of my favorite.
Sounds good. You mentioned that you often choose what you're going to work on based on your co-authors, which I think is smart, because if you don't enjoy the person's company, or you don't feel like they're contributing, or they don't provide complementary skills or something you can learn from,
and it's not fun.
Then it doesn't. Yeah, and it's not fun. And
if you want the work to be not to be perceived as work, obviously you have to work with people you like, because in that case it's much more enjoyable.
And yeah, exactly. Life's too short to do otherwise. So, but I'm assuming you, and I might be wrong, but you're not necessarily concerned with the topic itself, because you move from B2B and then HR.
Yeah.
Do you pay attention to the trends of what's going on in the journal still? Do you see, what do you think is the key things at the moment that's happening, or what do you think will be the key topics coming?
No, I don't care. Honestly, I don't care, because, for instance, key topics nowadays are consumer journey.
Co-creation seems to be something
big data.
Up. Big data,
social media, that kind of things. I really don't care about all that. What I care about is what is the idea of the project, and if the idea is appealing and the people are some people that I like, yes, I go for it.
Makes sense completely, I think.
Yeah.
So that actually is, a whole nother thing that you could talk about, which is it's people rather than project, which is the most important thing. And meeting people, one of the best ways to do it is through conferences for you as well.
Yeah,
and
most often. Yeah.
So if your professional development funds were limited to one conference per year, which conference would you pick for? And you might have different conferences for different things. Yeah. You might think a conference is very good for networking, where another conference is very good for knowledge generation.
Yeah.
What conferences would you recommend people attend? Or maybe
obviously that depends on the topic, because there are many good conferences. Some of them are not good, but there are many good conferences. So, for instance, I know that a lot of people go to the AMA, which I do not attend. But
the American Marketing Association.
Yeah. But what I like to attend is the conference of the Association for Consumer Research, because obviously I'm in CB, consumer behavior, and this conference, to me, it's always super exciting to go there. Not exciting in terms of exciting because it's very, very rigorous, but it's also very fun. And the guys are, some of them are, egoistic and so individualistic. And,
you get that in academia.
Yeah. And they just want to show off. Yeah. But the majority of them is just very nice and cool, and they are from everywhere, from the US, but also from Singapore or whatever, and so they also have some good position. They work in good universities because they publish in good journals, and it's a good way to work with people who are knowledgeable of the literature, but also who have access to a lab, for instance, who know also how to analyze the data using the last trends, the last macros, or, the last type of statistical analysis. And so, I would definitely recommend ACR or SCP. I didn't go to SCP because I submitted some paper there, but was never accepted.
Which one's
Society for Consumer Psychology.
Okay.
Because as you know, JCR, so Journal of Consumer Research, Journal of Consumer Psychology, JMR, Journal of Marketing Research, even JM. Maybe a little less for JM, but a lot of these good journals accept people that are written by marketers, but also psychologists. So SCP would definitely be a good option.
Would that be worth someone who is industry-based attending, or is that more of an academic side?
No, it's very... I guess there is no... I guess SCP wouldn't be a good investment, but ACR could be, because you... Okay, not all the presentations are worthy to attend, but if you are, for instance, in the industry, in the packaging industry or even in the food industry, there are so many presentations on food or on sensory marketing, for instance, and definitely can be useful to attend that kind of presentation. The thing is, it's very, very difficult sometimes in terms of methods and results, but if you get the point of the presentation, the main idea, maybe it could be a good investment for people working in the industry to attend that kind of conference.
That sounds like a good idea. So we read quite a bit in terms of, we're constantly reading journals, we're constantly reading textbooks. Is there a marketing textbook or any sort of marketing literature that you would recommend for someone in academia or someone in industry, something that you could point to as being one of your favorites or something that's helped you in your career?
I'm sorry to say, but no, because my focus for the last years has been on statistics and methods. And so the books that I read the most are on these issues. So I could recommend a book on statistics, but I couldn't recommend a book on marketing. I'm sorry to say that.
That's perfect.
I know that How Brands Grow is one of the most, recommendable books, but still,
That makes total sense. That's fine. So with your career, so your dad has had a really significant influence on your life. He helped you choose your, education was primary, and then that got you through your PhD or helped you to achieve that. In terms of your academic career, is some sort of mentorship or having a mentor a really big thing for you? And if so, how did you go about gaining them, and how do you think that they've helped shape your career?
Yeah, so there are three people that I have in mind. When I was at the very early stage of my career, my first position in Troyes, I was very, very influenced by Pierre Chandon, who is professor at INSEAD.
You know Pierre Chandon.
You know Pierre Chandon?
No, I've been looking to find someone who knows him, so this is very good timing.
He's French, but he publishes in the best international journals.
He does quite a bit. He's located in Singapore at the moment, is that right?
No, Fontainebleau. Yeah.
He must... I'll have to double check his details on research. Okay, then,
and I didn't know him at that time. I know him now because at ACR, I met him. I had a lunch with him in Chicago in 2015. I was like, wow. I was impressed. And the guy is just, is super cool. Not as cool as Gavin, but he's super cool, but he's so clever. So for instance, I asked him if I could attend the summer camp at INSEAD. So it's a day where they invite people from universities overseas, so top academics, and there is 6 presentations over the day. And so he said, yes, sure, you can attend. I was like, wow, cool to be included in the bunch of people attending the thing. And he was like not paying attention to what was said by the people presenting their work, but still at the end of the presentation he was the guy who had the most interesting question. And I was like, how can you do that? He was reading his paper, checking his mail, and I was focused on the presentation, couldn't get a word, and at the end, he was the one who had the best, the most interesting question. So, and I just wanted to say that, I wanted to have that exact same career, being in a top school, which is still not the case, but anyway, he is really, really a clever guy, but in a good way, he's not the scientist, with the gray hair, and he's just, it's just a good balance of everything. And the thing is, he has so many good papers, but he's more famous for his case studies, even though his papers are in the top journals. And that means that he's a very efficient academic, but he has also a very strong connection with the industry. I guess because it is at INSEAD, and most of the alumni or the the students are from industry, nice companies. But the thing is, that is to me what I would like to become in the near future. Yeah. And that's why I try to do some case studies as well. But the thing is, so this is one mentor. The other one was Barry Babin, editor of JBR at the time. I visited him for maybe a little less than 2 months in 2009 in Louisiana. Super nice guy, very efficient in terms of publications, but still so warm, Absolutely not the kind of guy who doesn't even say hello when you cross the
Corridor.
Yeah, the corridor. So I like this idea of having very efficient guys that remain warm, absolutely not egoistic or whatever. And for instance, every Friday afternoon at 5 p.m., he had a drink with his PhD students.
Really?
At the bar of the university. And I just find that great. So, and I attended some classes he gave at the PhD level. So, and he's so, yes, again, so warm, so benevolent, so generous, absolutely no distance between him and the students. And he has a background from the industry. So he was an engineer and he moved to the academia in marketing, and he's also super strong in methods. So he's one of the authors of multivariate data analysis.
Okay.
Yeah. So
wow.
That is one real mentor for me. And the third one is Gavin Fitzsimmons at Duke. So I sent him an email to ask if I could come to Duke. He never heard of me before, and he replied, yes, sure. Why not? There's quite a good fit between what you do and what we do. So yeah, you can come. And I remember the first day I was at Duke University. So we had a meeting at 9:30 a.m. at Duke. And I was waiting for maybe 10 minutes. I didn't want to be late. And I saw this guy coming, in the corridor wearing a T-shirt with the logo of the football team of the university, shorts and sneakers. Yeah. So some Converse. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so
inviting
good.
me at the restaurant of the university at lunch to talk about research and discussing about cars, sports. And the guy was, publishing 4 JCP a year, Journal of Consumer Psychology. And I was like, wow. And so I was invited in his office to talk about research. And in his office, there is no desk.
None at all.
Not at all. So there is 2 shelves with some awards. Yeah. And there is a huge plasma TV. Yeah. Table, a small table.
Yeah, like a coffee table.
Yeah, a coffee table. 2 seats, but that kind of very zen, very peaceful seats. I don't know how to explain. And so basically when he works is with his keyboard. Yeah, keyboard. Yeah. Yeah, and he works, and this basically the plasma TV is the screen. And so we had a Skype session with a co-author, and so instead of looking at the computer screen, we were looking at the plasma TV. And so it's super cool, super nice, and so prolific in terms of publications.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I love to hear about how people work because everyone works quite differently.
Oh, yeah. Pierre Chandon, for instance, so we were talking about the need to have some kind of physical activity to be, more effective in terms of cognitive tasks. Yeah. He has in his office, as you said, when you go to the gym and you run.
A treadmill.
Yeah.
He has a treadmill in his office.
Yeah. Yeah, so that he can read papers and, in his office when he's at work. So, yeah.
That's excellent. I'll have to ask him about it when I meet him, hopefully soon. Great. I mean, I've had a great time chatting to you.
Thanks.
I just want to leave on one thing.
Yeah.
So today, what would you say would be the highlight of your career? And if we were to... I mean, I hope I run into you sooner than this, but if I was to run into you in 10 years' time, what would you hope to have accomplished? What would you like to be known for? Or, so I suppose looking back and then looking forward.
Yeah. So in 10 years?
In 10
what I
years.
would like to have achieved.
What are you most proud of first from what you've already done?
Oh, my journal of retailing.
Journal of Retailing, the one that you just got accepted.
Yeah. Because obviously it's my best paper. Yeah.
And what was that one about?
The language backfire effect. So when you go to a restaurant or to a store or whatever the kind of service setting, and you are not in your home country, but you are abroad, okay, and you want to prove that you are able to speak the local language, and when you speak, the guy in front of you replies in your first language. And so what is the effect in terms of satisfaction, experience, and that kind of things? And it was my best paper. So I'm proud of that. I'm also proud of being at a place or at a stage where I didn't even imagine I could be, when I was a PhD student, for instance. So, and also being part of a community. So I attend ACR almost every year, which is not easy. I often submit 4 to 5 papers, got 1 or 2 accepted. Wow. So it's the SCP, not still 1 accepted. So I'm kind of proud of that. And, having Pierre Chandon, working with Gavan, I received a mail from Gavan maybe just on my way to Australia, actually. I received a mail from Gavan. I had not received a mail from him for so long. Just having him saying, hey, Renaud, we could get back to this paper, and having him wanting to work back with me, and that is something I'm very proud of. And in 10 years, I would like to have a paper in GMR, GM, JCR, JCP. Yeah. I'm working on the JAMS, Journal of the Academy of Marketing Science. Could be published maybe, because there is Drew Gruwell with us, Marcus Blutt, meta-analysis with 6 times more sample size than in the usual sample meta-analysis. So that could be cool. But yeah, in 10 years, and I would have liked to spend maybe 6 months abroad, again with the kids in the US, in a very strong university like Ivy League or whatever. And also in 10 years, the most important would be to have still my job, my career, and looking at my kids and my wife and my family and being proud of what I have managed to do to make them having a good life. And that would be my, achievement.
Perfect. I couldn't think of a more perfect way to finish the interview. I've had a great time. So, hopefully we speak again soon. And I'm hoping I see you in France sometime next year.
Oh, yeah. Just, send me an email. And
I mean, whether it's being sent for corporate sponsors with the Institute. So they have a moon base there in London.
Okay.
I could just get
sure. And you could give a lecture at Cage, or even present the Institute, because this is something very interesting for us as well.
Yeah, I'd love to. Or the wine conference.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Or both. All right, let's go grab some lunch. Hey guys, it's Zac Anesbury here with just a couple of quick reminders. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, then make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. There are plenty more interviews to come with some of the world's leading marketing academics and practitioners. You do not want to miss these. In the meantime, if you're looking for another way to connect, then follow me on Twitter at Zac Anesbury. That is ZACANESBURY for my take on the marketing issues of the day.